Hey guys, hello again. I've done a lot of live streams lately, but this one is Lucy Letby, the killer nurse from not too far away from me, from Chester in the UK, and she's due to be sentenced. And I've had to change all my morning schedule around because I found out about, I don't know, an hour ago that the sentencing is happening at 10 a.m. So it's currently at 9:46 in the a.m. here in the UK. So the dogs haven't had a walk. So if you hear him in the background behaving like wild things, it's because they've not had a walk yet. I did get up early, and then I was in the middle of making a video or getting the clips ready to make a video, and I fell asleep. I fell asleep, and I woke up at 8:30 thinking, what on earth's going on? So yeah, I'm a little bit out of it. I'm a bit out of it still. So I've got Sky News on in the background. I've been told that the sentencing is going to be televised. Hopefully it is. I have been told that it's televised. If not, then obviously we're going to have to do the thing that we sometimes have to do and just look for updates. But I have got Sky News on in the background, and you can see that they've got Lucy Letby in the title of their Sky News breakfast programme. So that's a thing. So I've got that on in the background. Before that, though, I want to talk about the fact that Lucy is not going to attend sentencing. And it's outrageous, absolutely outrageous, that people who have been sentenced of these horrific crimes are just, well, they can just choose whether to attend their sentencing or not. And I find it just disgusting. However, before I went live, I was listening to Sky News, and they had this woman on. She's like a lawyer or someone very high up anyway in the legal system. And she said it's a double-edged sword, because if you force someone to attend sentencing and they don't want to be there, then they're going to be disruptive, and that's even more disgusting. So I get that. I understand that. You know, I'd want to wheel them in chained to a wheelchair with a gag so that they have to listen and they can't speak. But that's just me. I don't think the law allows for that either. But it's just awful, really bad. So I'm going to play a clip from this came out on Sky yesterday. And this is, you can't see it properly yet because I've got it on pause, but it's Cheryl Corbell, who's Olivia Pratt-Corbell's mother. The little 9-year-old from Liverpool who was shot to death by an absolute coward called Thomas Cashman. And I followed that case all the way through from the day it happened all the way up to Thomas Cashman's sentencing. And he was another one who was too cowardly to appear in court at his sentencing. They actually had to delay the sentencing because he was kicking off. He was scheduled to attend, and then he was kicking off, and he ended up not going into court. So a complete and utter coward. Other people have been calling, actually some UK ministers have been calling for the sentencing to be streamed directly into her cell so that she has to listen. And I think that's a good idea. I think that is a good idea. So she's not there in public listening to disrupt matters, but she has to listen. So that's an option. I'm just going to plug my computer in because it's on low. This always happens. Whichever computer I use, I end up having to faff about with chargers. And this charger is tangled. What's it tangled with? Hold on a minute. I've got so many wires. Right. Got it. Got the right charger. Got it untangled. I don't know why I don't do these things before I go live. But, you know, this is what happens when you're unprepared, as I was this morning. Okay. Are we charging? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. All right. Okay. Oh, they're talking about wind-powered cargo on Sky News at the moment, so nothing to do with Lucy. Let's see who's... Oh, it's telling me my battery's running low still. You're charging, you fool. Oh, God. All right, who's in the house? Claire, Skittles True Crime, Alice Rushton, Scott H. Hi, Scott. What time is it for you over there in Tennessee? It's the middle of the night for you. Cheryl, early bird, 3:40 a.m. Wow. Have you been to bed or are you just up early? Jackie, Natalie, Shalix, Jane, Dahlia, Down Under with Love. 6:45 p.m. Oh, it's a good time for you guys. When I stream early in the morning, it's not good for those in the US and Canada, but it's good for the those down under. Esme, Olwyn, Purple AJ, Isabel, another Lancashire lass, D, Harry Potter's beard. You haven't actually been to bed. 4:40 a.m. for Debbie. 4:45. Been up all night. Oh, wow. Dear me. Angie baby, Jane. 6:47 in Australia. Sandra Louise. Good evening from Aussie. So we've got a lot of Australians in the house. Karen, Sapphire. Who else? Let's go down to the bottom. Sabian, Lindsay. All right, so we've got a few people heading in. Hello from Canada. 3:53 a.m. From Lincolnshire. Notts, UK. Hereford. That's where Lucy's from, isn't it? Hereford. I've never been to Hereford. It's one town I've never been to. I don't think I have anyway. I might have been through it when I was a kid, but I don't think I've ever been there. All right. Okay, let's play this clip. So this is Cheryl Corbell, Olivia Pratt-Corbell's mother, who knows how this feels when a family has sat through a trial after a horrific event has happened and can't read out their witness statement, their heartfelt statement as to how this crime has affected them. They can't do it in front of the person who has been convicted. Now, obviously, in Lucy's case, you know, it's a whole busload of families. She's been convicted of 7 counts of murder and then 6 counts of attempted murder. So it's multiple families who are going through the pain, have gone through an 8-month trial, have waited diligently through 110 hours of jury deliberation. And finally, the day has come of the sentencing, and they can't face the coward in court. So awful. Anyway, let's play this clip. This is Cheryl Corbell speaking yesterday on Sky News.
Disgusted, absolutely disgusted.
I feel sorry for those families, I really do.
And that's not just one family, that's a number of families. Our hearts go out to them.
Those families are not going to get a chance to express what damage she has done to their lives.
When we got there, the family weren't there. We just assumed they were running late. And then as time went on, we knew something was wrong. So we asked, nobody knew. And then more time passed and we got told that he wasn't coming up into the dock. We didn't know that he had a choice. As far as we were concerned, he had to be there. It was horrendous. He'd spent 18 days in that court, listening to court officials. He had his chance on the stand, hearing his voice. So it was our time to have our voice. And like I've said in the past, Olive hasn't got a voice anymore. So we're their voice. But we didn't get it. And that's why we're pushing on this campaign to make a change in the law. So the court have got more power to bring any offenders into the dock to face the judge and to face the families.
It was important that he was in front of me and my family in that courtroom to see for his own eyes, so he would never forget for as long as he's alive, to hopefully one day realise what he had done to our family. The victim impact statements, and if the convicted killer's not in front of you, it's being read out to an empty courtroom, and the one person that you want to listen and hear what you've gone through and what you've experienced is not in the room, then it makes a bit of a mockery of the whole situation. But it was important also for me to have that eye contact with him, which I had done for the whole trial, and just to see if there was any remorse or regret in what he'd done. And from what I saw, there never was. So.
Yeah, so that's Cheryl Corbell, Olivia Pratt Corbell's mother, and also the father of Ellie Edwards, who is another Liverpool victim. She was shot to death in Liverpool around the same time that Olivia was shot. I didn't cover her case. It took a long time for them to find the killer, but they did find the killer. And why are they saying he? Because they're talking about the offender of their cases. So in both Olivia Pratt Corbell's case and Ellie Edwards' case, the killers were a he. So I watched Thomas Cashman's sentencing live. I streamed it on this channel, or maybe MichelleAfterDark. I can't remember which channel I streamed it on. And the sentencing was delayed. It was delayed for quite some time. And as you heard Cheryl Corbell say there, it was because Thomas Cashman was there. He was there in the court in the holding cell, and he was kicking off, refusing to come out. So they had to delay the sentencing, and then eventually they went ahead without him. And the Corbell and Pratt families who were there to give, witness statements, victim impact statements, and were hoping to be able to do that in front of the little girl's killer, and he was too cowardly to attend. So in Lucy Letby's case, which is about to start shortly, apparently, I've been told 10 a.m., but it's 10 a.m. now, and Sky News has just got the weather on. They're doing the weather. They're doing the world weather at the moment. So they'll not tune in. If I've been told rightly, and the case is being televised, because it's a new thing. It's a new thing in the UK, having cameras in court. And there's a number of judges now who've allowed the sentencing to be televised. But what they don't televise are the victim impact statements. They leave those, they allow the families to do those privately without them being televised, which is a shame, because I want to hear from the families themselves the impact that it's had. So it's just the judge that is televised. So in the case of Lucy Letby, it might be a while, because all the families will be given the opportunity to give victim impact statements. You're right, live follower. They should stream it into a cell. There's a lot of government ministers, actually, that are calling for that to happen. That if an offender doesn't want to attend their sentencing, they should live stream it into their cell. So, although it's not public, at least we know that the offender is listening to it. They'll be given a written transcript of it, but that's not the same as actually hearing it live. So they absolutely should do that. I mean, the Corbell and Pratt families at Thomas Cashman's sentencing weren't aware that it wasn't a legal requirement for an offender to attend court during the sentencing. I wasn't aware of it either. I thought they had to attend. I wasn't aware of it. When my son was killed in 2014, the guy that killed him pled guilty. And we went to his sentencing hearing, and he did attend, and he was doubled over sobbing, and that was a good feeling. It was a good feeling for me, and I think it was a good feeling for all my family who went to listen to the sentencing. He was just doubled over sobbing. So it's a good feeling that they're actually feeling remorse, but when you have somebody like Thomas Cashman and Lucy Letby, who are just too cowardly to attend, the families don't have that closure, if you will, of being in court and letting them hear their statements. Sky News is now talking about Lucy Letby, so I am going to show you that. I'll unmute this.
What was happening to these babies, and slowly a picture emerged of these consultants' immediate colleagues becoming suspicious, raising concerns, and we know now that those concerns were not acted on quickly enough, because Lucy Letby continued this for 12 months inside this hospital. She will be sentenced through the course of today. It's just getting underway inside the building behind us. Lucy Letby is in the building, but crucially, we're hearing she has decided once again not to come into the courtroom, into the dock, to hear what is happening in court today, which is the early part of this morning taken up with the impact statements from the families involved, the many families involved in this case, and there have been never ending impacts to her crimes that will be articulated today, whether it's the families themselves reading aloud in court or statements being read on their behalf. Lucy Letby, as I say, we're just hearing now from inside court, she is not in the dock at this point, continuing a pattern of her choosing to remain in the cells beneath, inside this building in Manchester. That is a very contentious thing because, of course, for the families, this is about their chance in this case to just show how much harm has been done by these crimes. And Sky News has spoken to other bereaved families from other high-profile cases who have had similar frustrations about not being able to face the killer in their cases in court. Sky's Katerina Vitozzi has spoken to the mother of Olivia Pratt-Corbell, who was shot dead in Liverpool almost a year ago now, who also was denied that moment at the very end of the criminal process. This is her report.
After a 5-year investigation and a 10-month trial, today is Lucy Letby's judgment day. There will also be a chance for the families of the victims to read out statements or have them read on their behalf, addressing the impact of what Lucy Letby did on their lives. But Letby won't be there to hear these words or see that emotion. She's refused to be in court.
It's a disgrace. It was like a punch in the stomach.
If anyone can even begin to understand how that will feel for the victims' families, it's Cheryl Corbell. Her daughter, Olivia, was shot and killed by this man, Thomas Cashman, in August last year. Cashman, like Letby, refused to be present for sentencing.
He'd spent 18 days in court, listening to court officials. He had his chance on the stand, hearing his voice. It was our time to have our voice. And like I've said in the past, Olive hasn't got a voice anymore, so we're their voice, but we didn't get it.
Olivia's family want to see a law change for the guilty to be forced to go to sentencing. It is something the government says they want to change, but not when. For families who've gone through so much already, any delay hurts.
The one person that you want to listen and hear what you've gone through and what you've experienced is not in the room, then it makes a bit of a mockery of the whole situation.
Tim Edwards' daughter Ellie was shot on Christmas Eve last year. He did get the chance to see her killer in court.
It was important that he was in front of me and my family in that courtroom to see for his own eyes, so he would never forget for as long as he's alive, to hopefully one day realise what he had done to our family.
These moments in such tragedy count. Lucy Letby's sentence will reflect her crimes, their unimaginable scale, their absolute cruelty. But for families not to see her in that moment feels like a final insult. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News.
And that scenario has just played out inside the court here in Manchester. Lucy Letby is refusing to leave the cells in the bowels of this building and come up to the court to face this final stage of the criminal process. That is something that she did a few days last week as well, during the times at which verdicts were being delivered. They weren't all delivered on one day. And she'd taken that decision to stay in the cells. And the judge has acknowledged, Mr. Justice Goss, that he can't compel her to come up to the courtroom. And the government are looking at changing the law around that to make sure that perpetrators of such heinous crimes cannot take this way out. They cannot hide from this final moment of justice, because it does cause great anguish to the families who, in this case particularly, have been through so much of the course of the last 7 years. This has been a very painful trial the last 10 months, a great moment of relief for many of the families on Friday, but not all of them, because not all of them got verdicts in relation to the charges that Lucy Letby faced. The jury deliberated for some 110 hours to reach the verdicts that they did, but there were still some families where the jury just couldn't come to a verdict. And so their quest for answers and for a sense of justice in this case is very much left undecided. And we know that the prosecution lawyer, Nick Johnson KC, inside the court right now, has said that Lucy Letby has refused to attend her sentencing. And we know that some of the families are in the courtroom itself. And they are now looking in court at the sentencing guidelines around the crimes that Lucy Letby was convicted of on Friday. It is a mandatory life sentence, but it is usually the judge's decision to set a minimum tariff, a number of years before which that prisoner could be considered for parole and considered for release. And Nick Johnson KC arguing right now in court that, in his words, this is a very, very clear case which calls for a whole life order. That would mean Lucy Letby, if it were to be passed later today by Mr. Justice Goss, would spend the rest of her life in prison. And it is reserved for the most serious offenders. And there are very few prisoners in the UK who are serving a whole life tariff at the moment. And that is one of the options available to Mr. Justice Goss this afternoon. He may set a life sentence with a minimum tariff, or indeed a whole life sentence. That will start from 2 o'clock. This morning is very much about the families being able to articulate the pain that this has caused them over the years and this suffering that has come about because of the abuse of trust, the betrayal of trust that Lucy Letby carried out at the Countess of Chester Hospital. We will bring you all the details of those victim impact statements and, of course, that sentencing this afternoon.
Tom Parmenter, thanks so much for that. And, of course, the big...
Okay, so you just heard that. So the actual sentence in itself isn't going to happen until this afternoon. So this morning it will be victim impact statements, and there will be a lot of them because there are 13 families, 7 babies who were murdered, and then 6 who she attempted to murder, but who survived. So what I'll do is I'll end this live in a little while and then come back later, because my dogs will not forgive me if I sit here until this afternoon because they've not had a walk yet. So what I'll do before I sign off here, let's talk about the motive. Because we don't know why she did this. We just don't know why she did this. And I've been looking at what information's available about her life. You know, is there something in her childhood? Were there warning signs? And it appears not. From what's out there in the public domain, it appears not, that she was a very loved child. She was an only child, and her parents are continuing to support her. They don't believe that she did this. They just can't get their head around why she did this. She was a good student. She passed her nursing degree. It was always her hope and her dream to work with children, and passing the qualifications to be a children's nurse in a neonatal ward was her life goal. But yet, a short time after she qualified as a neonatal nurse, she started this killing spree. And this killing spree went on for a year between 2015 and 2016. And eventually, she was taken away from the frontline duties because they were suspecting her that this increase, this uptick in fatalities on the ward was a concern to them. And when they checked all the duty rosters, Lucy Letby was on shift for every single one of these unusual deaths, or the cases where babies had, have been fighting for their lives. Now, this is a neonatal ward, so, you've got very sick premature babies on there, on that ward, that require very complicated care. They got probably multiple health problems, or they're just very, very tiny. They've been born very, very prematurely, and they require round-the-clock care from dedicated and very, very well-trained professionals. So some deaths you would expect, sadly, which has made this case all the more complicated, that some of these babies might have died anyway. That's the defense. And it is a good defense that these babies were so sick that they died of natural causes. But obviously from the witness testimonies that were told in trial and autopsies, they knew that these babies had not died of natural causes. So the question remains, why did she do this? There's no warning signs. So there's a lot of criticism against the hospital, the Countess of Chester Hospital, for not taking her off frontline duty sooner. And I understand that, I get that. But it is a difficult one, because some of those little babies are so sick that they expect fatalities. But it was the uptick in the number and the circumstances at which these babies were dying or took rapid decline in their health, a health that is complicated but stable. And then a baby just very suddenly starts fighting for his or her life. And Lucy was on shift for every single one. And she seemed to enjoy the palaver that a very sick baby and the trauma of the families, a very sick baby that suddenly takes a downturn in their health and either dies and may or may not be resuscitated. She seemed to enjoy that situation. And then afterwards, she also enjoyed working with the families. Like, what they do when a little baby dies is they put together a memory box. They allow the family some time with that baby, as much time as they want. And she enjoyed that process as well. And she would look up on Facebook the families, and she would, at the time, like poignant times, she'd be particularly avid in searching for those families on Facebook. So Christmas Day, she was looking up the families to see what they were posting, I guess, on Christmas Day. And anniversaries of the baby's deaths, she would do the searches then to see what they were saying. So she was enjoying the process of them being bereaved. That it's just sick. It's just sick. I don't think so. I don't know. It's a difficult one. Now, there's psychologists who have weighed in on this are saying that the case is very similar to that of Beverly Allitt, the killer nurse, who didn't kill as many as Lucy Letby. I've got a video on this channel about Beverly Allitt. It's part of the Crime Story Sunday series. So go and check that out if you want all the background to Beverly Allitt. But there were warning signs in Beverly's case. She was a very disturbed young woman. There were warning signs, like she was doing strange things to her friends. She was trying to kill people who were kind of in a friendship circle. So there were warning signs with Beverly once it started to be investigated. But as far as we know at the current time, at this moment in time, we do not have that kind of information. We don't know if there were warning signs. There's a troll in chat, is there? Who's the troll? Oh, Speakeasy. All right. Let's have a look. All right. You got a timeout, son. You got a timeout. If you come back and troll, you get one chance. You come back and troll, then you just go. You're gone. You're gone. You are gone. Knock it off, Michelle. You are going down. All right. Okay. I have no idea who you are, lady. No idea who you are. No idea who you are, but you're gone. So, saying here, coverage from 2 p.m. on Sky News. All right. So this is an interesting article from the Mail Online. Lucy Letby's handwritten confession leave experts baffled over her motive for becoming Britain's most prolific baby murderer in modern history. What an accolade to have. What an accolade. But leading investigators to claim it provides an explanation. I don't know that it does, though. Not from a psychological point of view. It doesn't. So evidence that she became animated and excited after the baby's deaths, enjoyed the drama of the emergencies when infants collapsed, and was quick to tell her colleagues in texts when something unusual and tragic had happened on her shift, pointed to her reveling in the attention. Letby was psychologically assessed and deemed fit to stand trial, so the competency of her wasn't in question. But this desire to be at the centre of a crisis could be a symptom of the mental disorder Munchausen syndrome. Now, that's what Beverly Allick was diagnosed with, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that she was making these babies ill so that she could swoop in and play God and be rewarded and being patted on the back when she was helping these desperately ill babies. And what people didn't realize at the time was that Beverly was causing these babies to be ill so that she could swoop in and play God. And I don't know whether the case is exactly the same in Lucy's case. I think there's definitely the aspect of playing God. That she decided who lived and who died. Now, I don't know what playing God equates to in terms of a diagnosis in psychology. I would imagine that there's going to be a personality disorder in there somewhere, somewhere in her psyche. She's got a personality disorder, but which one, I don't know. And this lack of empathy, screams of psychopathy to me. But again, I don't know quite enough to be confident about claiming what personality disorder she might have. I've never met her. I don't know any of the case other than what's in the public domain. So I can't say, even though I'm a psychologist, I can't say she's got this. We can only speculate based on the information that's in the public domain. But for me, I think she was playing God, that she decided who was going to die. And once she got a target, then she had to carry it out. So if she got interrupted, so once she got the target, if she was interrupted, she made sure she went back later to take that take that baby's life, or at least attempt to. So she was, the killings weren't random. Although it was opportunistic, they weren't random. She chose a target. Maybe BPD. Possibly. I don't think that's a sole diagnosis, though. Honestly, I know people who've got BPD and they don't behave like this. Now, obviously, everybody's different. Even when you've got the same diagnosis, you might present very differently. But nobody that I know with BPD would dream of doing anything like this. Now, Letitia Stauck was diagnosed with BPD with narcissistic features. So I think this is a very complex diagnosis. I think she's narcissistic, very narcissistic. I think narcissistic personality disorder is probably going to be the closest if you wanted a single diagnosis. But there might be BPD features in there and also psychopathic features in there. I mean, there is a crossover between what we know about psychopaths and people who are very high on the narcissistic scale. You have BPD and you don't murder babies. Yeah. So just diagnosing somebody with a personality disorder doesn't tell us why they murder. It doesn't. I mean, what Letitia Stauck did, for example, with Gannon, who would have predicted what she was going to do? Nobody. And it's only after the fact that a diagnosis is attempted. So in Lucy's case, I think she's just so highly narcissistic that she just wanted this attention, and it's almost like it becomes addictive. It becomes a drug that once you've stepped over that line and you've done it once, that line has been crossed, and you realize you enjoy it and you carry on doing it. So I think there's an addictive quality to it as well. Now, whether we can also say there's signs of Munchausen syndrome in there, possibly. But I don't think she's quite the same as Beverly Allitt. Like, I did quite a lot of research into Beverly Allitt when I did the Crime Story Sunday episode. And obviously that's from a long time ago, and there's a lot more out there about Beverly. And, she was clearly mentally unwell. And maybe Lucy is, and maybe in the course of time, we'll find out more about Lucy's life. But at this moment in time, the warning signs just weren't there. Nursing attracts the psychos. I don't think so. I think it's just unfortunate when a profession like nursing, or a medical profession generally, attracts someone who opportunistically starts to enjoy taking lives. It's rare. Thankfully, it's rare. But in the absence of a clear motive, Detective Superintendent Paul Hughes, who led the investigation for Cheshire Police, said he believed Letby's confession note, we'll look at the note in a minute, providing the only explanation for why she became Britain's most prolific child killer in modern times. She loved the attention. I think she loved the attention of the trial as well. Well, I don't know about that, because if she was loving the attention, then wouldn't she want to attend her sentencing? I don't know. But if we're looking for why she done this, then to reuse her own words, she is evil and she did this. Without telling us why, if we're looking for why, then she wrote it down in that note. The green post-it note was discovered in her diary when police searched her home after she was arrested in July 2018. It was headed, "Not good enough." So this is the note. Thank you, Debbie, for the £5. Thank you. Would the defence have brought up Munchausen's during the trial if it was a factor, do you think? Probably not, because that then gives a motive, and the defence isn't going to want to give a motive because she pled not guilty. The defence will going to be able to portray her as this loving woman who was doing the best for these babies. So no, the defence isn't going to bring up Munchausen's, because that then admits that she did it. But this is the note titled "Not Good Enough." So this was found in her diary. There are no words. I cannot breathe. Overwhelming fear. Something. I haven't done anything wrong. Police investigation. Slander, discrimination. I feel very alone and scared. What does the future hold? The future holds a life behind bars. How can I get through it? I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough. I am a horrible, evil person. Well, she got that one right. I don't deserve mum and dad. World is better without me. I am evil. I did this. And then she's got this other thing. I am an awful person. I pay every day for that right now. I'll never have children. No hope. So I'll never have children or marry. Never know who. Something. Panic, fear, lost, hate. I did this. Why me? So the Mail Online have got the words here. This is what they've deciphered. She has to get a whole life tariff. I hope she does. But they are rare. They are rare in the UK. Thomas Cashman got 42 years for the murder of Olivia Pratt-Corbell before he can apply for parole. So he's going to be an old man by the time he can even apply for parole. So if he lives that long, he's got a while to wait. So I was happy with that, knowing how rare whole life tariffs are. But with Lucy's case, I think she's more likely to get a whole life tariff because there's so many victims. It was clearly premeditated. And she has shown absolutely no remorse. So there's aggravating factors there. I think, Rose West is on whole life, yeah. But it is rare in the UK to get life without parole. It has to be signed off by the Home Secretary. Oh, it's a whole thing. So I think this case, it's possible that the judge will give her a whole life because of the aggravating factors and just the fact that she's shown absolutely no remorse. But it's not for sure. I'll be happy if she gets anything over 40 years. I'll be happy. Because she'll be a very old woman by the time she gets out. She's 33 now, so if she gets 40 years, she'll be in her 70s. By the time she even has the opportunity to apply for parole. Now, obviously, she's got the right to appeal. Thomas Cashman appealed, but his appeal was thrown out. They said, no chance. We're not even listening. We're not even listening to your appeal. Just do your time. So if she gets 40 plus years, she's going to be in her 70s by the time she can even apply for parole. And prison is... it's got a way of making sure that you die sooner. I'm not saying that prison is a surefire way to get yourself killed, although that obviously does happen. But healthcare isn't the best in prison, and it ages you, shall we say? It ages you. She should never be allowed out. Yeah, I agree with you, Esme. Absolutely, I agree. But at the same time, if she's, because whole life tariffs are so rare in the UK, if she doesn't get a whole life tariff, if she gets 40 years, she's going to be 73 by the time she can even apply for parole. And there's absolutely no chance, you know, it's not a surefire. She might have her parole denied. So she was convicted of 7 murders and 6 attempted murders. It's treacle toffee time, Michelle. It is. It so is. So this is what the note actually said. I am evil. I did this. There are no words. I am an awful person. I pay every day for that. I can't breathe. I can't focus. Kill myself right now. Overwhelming fear, panic. I'll never have children or marry. I'll never know what it's like to have a family. No hope. Well, it's probably a good thing that you'll never know what it's like to have a family, because you're not very good at looking after babies, are you, Lucy? You'd probably be so evil that you'd kill your own baby. So there's that. I haven't done anything wrong. Police investigation, forgot slander, discrimination, victimization, all getting too much, everything taking over my life. Hate myself so much for what this has. I feel very alone and scared. What does the future hold? Prison. How can I get through this? How will things ever be like they used? I suppose that's used to be. Hate, panic, fear, lost, don't deserve to live. I did this. Why me? I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough for them. I'm a horrible, evil person. I don't deserve mum and dad. World is better off without me. Well, she got that right. But she claimed it wasn't a confession. She claimed that it was because she was being blamed for something she hadn't done. So the first kind of portion of the letter, or the post-it note, was that she hadn't done this and she was being persecuted and this was slander and discrimination. But as she continued to write, she talked herself into it. And she ended up with the capital letters, I am evil, I did this. So obviously not very psychologically stable, that in one post-it note, you go from saying you're being slandered and discriminated against to saying that you're evil and you did this. So Mr. Hughes said it was his view, so that's the prosecutor, that Letby deliberately left the note for police to find. I don't think she did. I think she probably forgot it was there in her diary. He said that by May 2017, she was aware police were investigating, and although she had a shredder at her home address in Chester, she did not destroy the note. I think she forgot it was there because it was inside her diary. Nor did she get rid of other incriminating papers, nursing handover sheets and medical documents, which were found stashed under her bed. Beverly Allitt did that. Beverly Allitt kept a load of documents. And I think it's because they review them. I think it's because they want to replay in their mind what they've done. You know, like some killers return to the scene of the crime to relive what they've done. Well, this is the equivalent. Reviewing all of the documentations of the emergency, because everything that was done, or the medication that was given, everything's written down. So she stole those documentations so that she could re-review them. I don't think she did it so that police could find them. I think she did it because it's like trophies. These are her trophies. That's what I think those documents were. That's what I think they were, what they represented in Beverly Allitt's case. And I think it's what they represent in this case. Now, obviously, this is just my opinion. But it's the equivalent of reliving the experience at the crime scene. She probably sat in bed at night reviewing all of these documents. How sick is that? So it was in the newspapers in May 2017 that Cheshire Police were investigating the circumstances around neonatal mortality. I don't remember that at the time. 2017. I don't remember that, but obviously it was. She knew at some point we would be speaking to her, so either recklessly or intentionally, she wrote it down to be found. I think that post-it note she forgot, and then all the documentation, she wanted it. She wanted it there with her. That's what I think. That's her mugshot. Mr. Hughes said Letby was not stupid and speculated whether she left the notes because she wanted notoriety. She's intelligent and articulate. She did well on her scores as a nurse. She was good at what she did when she wanted to do it correctly. You could see that in the way she wrote her hospital records. So she was very diligent in writing down everything that she did. Why? Because she wanted a record of it for herself, for the trophy of being able to look at it in the future and revel in the fact that she's a murdering, evil person. Furthermore, you could tell the way she intentionally misled doctors on hospital notes just how smart she was. To be able to mislead doctors into believing that a child was coming towards a collapse, to intentionally mislead clever doctors and colleagues. She did want the note to be found, or did she want it to be found? Did she just want to write it down, or did she just want to tell the world she was evil and she did this? What's this sidebar here? Oh, it's a handwriting analysis. I don't agree with that. The style of writing represents antisocial behaviour, impulsiveness, dishonesty, rejection of discipline and manipulation. I think it shows a psychological instability that in the very same note, she goes from saying I didn't do this to a few lines later saying she did. I mean, that's it is an emotional impulsivity that she went from that to that, but I don't think we can tell that just from her handwriting. I think we have to have the context as well about what we know psychologically about other killers. We know that other killers want to relive their experience. We know that other killers take trophies. So Mr. Hughes went on to say, I don't think she went into nursing to kill children, but nursing gave her the opportunity to be around the most vulnerable in society. Once she saw what happened and the attention she received, that lit something inside of her that she continued with. I agree with that. I do agree with that. That she didn't want to work with children. You know, her life goal of working with children wasn't so she could murder them. She didn't work for years to get a nursing degree so that she could kill children. I think what happened when she got on the ward and maybe, you know, had a baby die, you know, naturally a baby die or become very seriously ill, and it made her the center of attention. If she was the nurse that was caring for that baby, I think that did. I think that it lit something inside her. I think is possibly what happened. And once you've crossed that line, once she took that first life intentionally to get that attention, it became like a drug to her. She was addicted to that attention. Now that tells me that she's got this narcissistic personality. Criminologist David Wilson said Letby's desire to be at the center of a crisis was indicative of a mental disorder, Munchausen's syndrome. She's creating a crisis around her, which is a form of Munchausen's, he said. So a narcissistic person who likes to be the center of attention then goes on to develop symptoms of Munchausen's because it plays into her psyche. It plays into always wanting to be there in the emergency. So yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. Extraordinary stories are being told of what happened when she went on shift. Look at all the things that occur when I'm around. Mr. Hughes said it was unclear exactly why Letby had targeted certain children other than having the opportunity. Perhaps because she was alone with them as their allocated nurse, or their parents had temporarily nipped away to get some sleep or food. But once she had chosen a victim, there was a determination to harm and kill. So, yes, it's an opportunistic crime in terms of she can't control which babies are in the ward. However, once she chooses a victim, then she ignores everything else, and it becomes the sole focus to kill that child. So she doesn't just kill randomly, the first baby that she sees. Once she's chosen that victim, she's then hell-bent on murdering that child. Awful. Some died, others were saved only when they were moved to a different hospital. And again, that happened in Beverly Alex's case. There was one case in particular, I can't remember the name of the little boy, that Beverly just continued to target. And he was having, crash after crash after crash. And they moved him to a different hospital and he recovered. He was fine. And Beverly was giving them shots of insulin. And that's one of the things that Lucy did. She used insulin, high doses of insulin, to send them into basically a coma and die. She was injecting air into their veins. She was also, this is horrendous. She was force feeding little tiny babies huge amounts of milk and air. So it basically just bloated them up. And once you become so bloated, then you can't move your diaphragm and your lungs can't expand to take in air. So basically you suffocate because your belly is so full of fluid and babies can't digest it quickly enough. That's just horrendous. That's a horrible, horrible, horrible way to die. Horrible. Once she decided to attack a victim, she's gone back to the same victim. So when she's chosen, she's got a determination to really try to kill them until she either does or circumstances change that stop her. She controls. Once she's decided to do it, if the outcome is not what she wanted, she's gone again and again and again to try to do it, which brings us to her being controlling and manipulating. So for me, that's the playing God aspect. The officer agreed that she was a monster who not only killed her vulnerable victims, but also made them suffer. Monster, it fits, because I can think of nothing worse. DCI Nicola Evans, the Deputy Senior Investigating Officer in the case, said being unable to tell the parents of Letby's victims exactly why she attacked their babies was really hard and difficult. I couldn't put my finger on what her motive was, and ultimately only Lucy Letby can answer that, DCI Evans said. She had the opportunity during the trial and her interviews, but has continually denied the offences. And I think that that lack of remorse will feed into the judge's sentence, because it's an aggravating factor, lack of remorse. And it shows that she's so void of empathy that if she was let out, she would probably do it again. But she's not learned anything and she's not sorry. So the chances are she's going to do it again. So that's another kind of tick in the box of giving her a whole life tariff. It's my view she will continue to deny them, so we may never get that answer. Our objective was to tell the families what happened, and one of the things we hadn't been able to do is tell them why. As a police officer, that's really difficult. That's her parents. Susan and John Letby. They come from Hereford, but they've actually moved house during the trial. They actually moved to Manchester so that they could attend every day. And they've attended every day of the trial. And they just can't believe that Lucy did this. They're just in complete denial. You know, she's their only child. I feel bad for her parents as well. That it's their only child and they thought she was doing so well. you know, proud of her for being a nurse and getting the goal of what she always wanted to do, work with children. On a human level, everyone tries to figure out why and says there must be something in her background or that happened to her that led to these crimes. And there doesn't seem to be anything. They are in denial. You're right, Jean. They are in denial. But I think it makes this more shocking that we haven't found anything that could point to a reason why. She had a good childhood. She was well liked. She was intelligent. She was studious. So she bucks the trend in a way. You know, most serial killers, you can go back into their early life and you can see that there was problems. You could see that they were heading into this, you know, antisocial way of life. There's warning signs, or they've had an horrific trauma in their childhood. They've been abused as a child, and it feeds into this really disturbed way of thinking and way of behaving. But Lucy's case, there's nothing that the police could find. Nothing. Now, there may be things that happened to her that have never been, you know, she's never talked about, so therefore we just don't know about. But at this moment in time, there doesn't appear to be anything. Criminologist Dr. David Wilson said Letby's desire to be at the centre of the crisis was indicative of the mental disorder Munchausen's. We've already said that. We've already talked about that. So that's Lucy as a youngster. Mr. Hughes said it was unclear exactly why Letby had picked on or targeted certain children other than having the opportunity. Perhaps she was alone with them as their allocated nurse, or their parents had temporarily nipped away to find sleep off it. We've read that. This repeats itself. Once she decided to attack a victim, she's gone back to the same victim. So when she's chosen, she's got a determination to really try to kill them until she either does or the circumstances change. She controls. Once she's decided to do it, if the outcome is not what she wanted, she's gone again and again and again to try to do it, which brings us back to her being controlling and manipulating. She's a monster. Monster. It's repeating itself. This is interesting. This is worth thinking about. That she was suspected of having a secret affair with a married doctor who became her quote-unquote best friend while she was murdering the babies at work. The nurse and the medic went on day trips to London, met up for walks and meals together in their free time, and swapped hundreds of messages on Facebook, often late into the night. Letby insisted they were nothing more than friends and denied being in love with the doctor, who applied for anonymity at the start of the trial and cannot be identified for legal reasons. So she had this obsession with this doctor. And there was one doctor who testified at the trial, and it was the first time that she showed emotion. When he walked into the room, she started to cry. And that was the first time in the trial that she showed any emotion. And I'm wondering, obviously we don't know because this guy's anonymity is protected, but I'm wondering whether it was that doctor that she had the obsession with when he walked in and testified, that she just broke down. And maybe she wanted attention from him. Maybe she was started to hurt these babies to get his attention. I think there's more to it than that. I just find that interesting. Psychologists will puzzle for decades over what darkness drove Lucy Letby to furtively murder and maim a succession of tiny, defenseless babies on the neonatal unit. On the surface, she seemed entirely innocuous, a plain, single woman going out to salsa sessions with her friends and returning to a suburban semi where she kept Disney-style cuddly toys on her bed and slept beneath a duvet bearing the similarly childlike motif of sweet dreams. It's like she's never really grown up. I mean, not that having cuddly toys in your bedroom is a sign of narcissism and signs that you're going to start murdering people, but I think she was probably quite emotionally mature possibly. I don't know. That's just a speculation. She did it in plain sight, yet felt protected from being unmasked because neither the friends she worked alongside nor the parents of her victims could even contemplate the idea that a neonatal nurse might be a serial killer. While doctors and nurses around her were doing their level best to save babies, she was trying to exploit every opportunity she had to harm them. She became so practiced a murderess that she routinely created alibis for herself, creating false documents, perhaps by using WhatsApp and Facebook messages to set up a false narrative. So when her baby collapsed, she could point to some explainable reason. Not even her best friend was immune, a fellow nurse on the unit, not even the married male registrar she was supposed to be infatuated with. Just like everyone else in her orbit, they were there to be unwittingly choreographed as she set about playing God, there you go, in the lives of babies so small they could fit in the palm of your hand. It's just awful, isn't it? The grief collector, I think that's that. Yeah. She's reveling in people's grief. She's collecting all of this information to play over, you know, psychologically again and again. It was a bonus if she could help bereaved parents by preparing a memory box for them, hand and footprints of their lost baby, photographs of 2 dead twins laid out in a Moses basket, a condolence card for another baby at the time of the funeral. The detectives who led the investigation had such contempt for Letby that they will never deign to speak to her. Harold Shipman. Harold Shipman got a sexual buzz, well, almost, from sitting some of his victims down and injecting them with diamorphine. Dear me. They're also investigating. She worked for a while at Liverpool Women's Hospital, so they're investigating all the cases there as well. They're having to go back, and police have said that this is just phase 1 of their investigations. That there's more. That there's more. Listen to this. This is her mother. Listen to this.
Can you think of the possibility that she harmed babies?
It is the most out of character accusation that you could ever put against Lucy. You think of your most kind, gentle, soft friend, you know, and think that they're being accused of harming babies. She is the kindest person that I've ever known. She would only ever want to help people. To say that she could have harmed any baby, it's just not in her nature.
Is that her mother? She looks very young to be her mother. I'll just find a picture of her mother. I don't know whether it is her mother. Might just be a friend. She looks very young to be her mother. Yeah, she had her own house, yeah. She was buying her own house. But yeah. Awful, 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 awful. Lucy looks older than her mother. That's why when I played that for the first time, I thought that's her mother, but she looks very young, like younger than her pictures. So I'm wondering whether it is her mother. Let's just see if there's a... where is it? Doesn't say who that's with. Oh, you can watch the Lucy Letby documentary. So there's the Mail have done a documentary. Killer hiding in plain sight. The trial of Lucy Letby, the inside story. Now, the Mail Online have been covering. There's a journalist who's done podcasts and blogs all the way through the trial. The trial lasted over 8 months, and then there was that 110 hours of jury deliberations. And it actually went on for weeks because the juries were given some weeks off. So the whole thing took 10 months. The whole thing from start to finish took 10 months. So I'm going to watch that. I'll put a link in the chat to this in case anybody wants to go and watch it. I can't account for its... where is it? There it is. This. Killer hiding in plain sight, the trial of Lucy Letby, the inside story. So I haven't seen it. I don't know whether it's any good. But I'm going to go and watch that. So I'm going to sign off for now. And then I'm going to come back at 2 o'clock. And Sky News are having more coverage. And hopefully we'll hear the actual sentence. This morning, it started at 10. Court started at 10. But it's all the victim impact statements at the moment. And they don't televise those. So hopefully the judge's sentencing will be televised. You've watched it and you can recommend Jinx Journalist. Oh, good. Good. Right. So, yeah, the link's in the chat there. If anybody wants to go and watch it. So I'm going to sign off for now. So thank you for being here. And I will be back at 2 o'clock. I'll put a scheduler up shortly. And I'm going to change the title of this live stream because we didn't actually see any of the sentencing in this. It's just the preamble. It's the preamble. So, yeah, 2 p.m. I'll see you later on this channel. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. And hopefully I'll see you all later. Bye, guys.